it's an attentive disorder.
I got you. All right. So, how can parents understand executive dysfunction's impact on young adults?
Yes. What the first thing to remember is that with ADHDers until about the time they're 30 is they are 30% behind in executive functioning maturity than neurotypical people. So if you have an 18-year-old that you're sending off to college that has ADHD, their executive functioning skills are probably about like a 14-year-old. If you have a
Okay.
25-year-old with ADHD that's living on their own, they're probably about like a 20-year-old. And so that's really important to remember because the expectations that we have for them need to match where they are biologically and
Ah,
neurologically. And that doesn't mean that they can't do it. It just means that we can't expect them to just have it. So an example is I have a lot of college kids I work with who they go off to college and all of a sudden they aren't going to class on time. They're forgetting to do all their papers. They're staying out too late. And the parents are like, but they're 18. They should just be able to do it. And so I think, okay, what if you had sent a 14-year-old to college? What would you expect? And then now, where can we build the tools and the strategies to help bridge that gap for them? So we have to remember that it's not going to be automatic for them
right.
necessarily. The other thing to remember is that executive functioning dysfunction builds upon itself. So what I mean by that is if you're chronically late, then you have chronic anxiety because you're always running late. And that anxiety puts you into a fight, flight, or freeze. So you're going to have a hard time being organized or paying attention or problem solving. So if you, without giving like the proper tools and without really helping your kiddo figure out how to solve those root executive functioning challenges, it really is just like this big amorphous challenge that is
Oh,
hard to
wow.
tackle. So those are
It's
some of the big things to remember.
okay. What role does mindfulness play in managing ADHD with families?
Okay, so I'm also a mindfulness facilitator, and mindfulness is the paying attention to the here and now without judgment. So it's meditation is part of mindfulness, but it's not all of mindfulness. And it's really about awareness. And ADHD is a deficit of awareness and attention because of the inattention, right? With ADHD, our brains move so fast that we aren't aware of what we're thinking when we're thinking it. We're not aware of what we're feeling when we're feeling it. ADHDers have impulse control issues. So we do things without thinking about the consequences. And then after we go, oh no, why did I do that? And we feel really terrible about it because we're also highly sensitive. So building a mindfulness practice and starting to pay attention to what we're thinking when we're thinking it, what we're feeling when we're feeling it, how our actions, I call it the fast forward remote. So pausing and then thinking about how our actions are going to have consequences, which a neurotypical brain does, but ADHD brains don't, really support then being able to say, okay, now what do I do about it? But as you can imagine, if we don't even know what we're doing and we don't even know how we're feeling and we don't even know what we're thinking, then making any sort of change is pretty much impossible. So some mindfulness tools that we can use are, like I said, one is the fast forward remote. So we practice just being aware of when we're going to make an impulsive decision, just practicing that first. And then we practice pausing. So like taking deep breath, getting outside, getting a drink of water. And then we start practicing figuring out what the consequences of those actions are going to be. So without that awareness piece, the rest doesn't really come. The rest is really hard. Also, mindfulness has been shown through MRI studies to build the gray matter in the areas of our brain that are responsible for attention and organization and motivation. And so a regular mindfulness practice actually is like going to the gym for your brain, and it strengthens the part of your brain that you really need in order to combat the challenges of ADHD. So it biologically and neurologically changes and creates new
Hmm.
connections.